This is Magda Shelley, cybersecurity professional from Singapore. And today I have with me Dave Lewis from Cisco. Dave, welcome!
Hello, been a while.
So fantastic to have you back in Singapore.
It's wonderful to be back here again. I need my chili crab.
Okay, Dave, look, let's ask you the first very important question. Tell me all your secrets.
Yeah, we're gonna cut.
Okay, no, let's be serious, come on. Okay, don't tell me all your secrets. Tell me just exactly what do you do at Cisco now.
What is it I say I do here? Well, I'm actually very fortunate to be part of our advisory CISO team where we get to be part of the strategy group for Cisco. And we're able to go around the world giving talks about security, building out reports, doing research, and having a lot of CISO roundtables around the world. I just recently finished 3 of them in Australia, and it was absolutely a fantastic experience to be able to get all those CISOs together and have conversations, basically group therapy for CISOs.
So as you are talking about advisory and all this, like, I would say community building and getting the feedback from the CISOs, I have a very, I would say, interesting finding as well from my side that relates about two-factor authentications. And before I go there, I must say I love Duos t-shirts. But aside from the t-shirts, I really do like the product, right?
It is fantastic.
But how can we explain that nowadays still the MFA implementation percentage is so low? I think I saw lately it went up from 17 to 20%. I mean, that is still extremely low. What are your thoughts about that?
A lot of it is an object at rest tends to stay at rest. And we've been dealing with using static passwords since 1962. That was the first implementation at MIT in the United States. And we've really not gotten away from that, and a lot of organizations are now waking up to that. Over the course of the pandemic, they realized that MFA wasn't just for critical systems, it could be for all their systems. So we have been seeing enterprises scale out when they've come to that realization that, wait a second, this is actually going to reduce the risk for our organizations, and that is starting to move that way. Is it slow? Yes, of course it's slow, because security practices are really stuck in defending their enterprises, and they never have all the staff they need. So they have to focus on things that are going to get the biggest bang for the buck. Understanding that MFA, multi-factor authentication, is going to reduce the risk and give them that bigger bang for the buck is something that has to be clearly articulated.
Oh, that's really fantastic, and especially I really like the approach. I'm saying really a lot. I really agree with you, Dave, a lot. But I must say, talking about risk in a specific way that addresses a product and tells you that the product is not about just the MFA. The MFA will help you to reduce the risk for the company. And I think with you overall traveling around the world and having this community exchange that I want to say, what else have you found that requires this very important linkage between solution and risk for companies?
The empathy, being able to talk to customers in a way that we understand their risks, we understand their issues. What are the outcomes they're trying to achieve in order to satisfy the aspirations of their business? We don't want to just show up with a box with blinky lights and say, here you go. We want to make sure that we are there as a trusted partner to help build that out. And organizations are now understanding that we are definitely trying to make that a better thing. And we can improve their overall security posture as a trusted partner. But it does take time. And a lot of organizations had to react very quickly in the course of the pandemic, and they made some decisions that may not have been well thought out, and now they're going through and remedying that. And now we're seeing a lot of risk reduction going through. We're seeing more multi-factor authentication, more firewalling, more DNS solutions. We're getting to a better place, but it is actually taking a little bit of time, which is to be understood because staffing has been a critical issue in most organizations around the world, and that is definitely an issue. One company I was talking to last week, they've had a job posting on their site for 4 years, and they haven't had anybody come through.
Oh no, definitely the skill gap is real. I have been recruiting myself. It's not as easy as sometimes we can read on the news, and especially that certain expertise really requires understanding and knowing that technology, which might be challenging, or other limits to that specific role and job. But I want to come back to the risk because it is a very important topic, and I think from the perspective of practical feedback that I have seen in the general around the world, but especially in Asia Pacific, understanding risk as a term or as a concept is already a challenge. So what exactly would you say is a correct risk definition from your view?
The simplest way I would articulate risk is the expectation of loss. So understanding that in the event that something transpires, what is going to be the loss for the company, either by intellectual property, financial, whatever it happens to be. That has to be gone through as an exercise with a risk team to categorize that, so that when an internet banking site goes down, how much money are they losing for every minute, every hour, every day that they're offline. Once you start putting it in a way of understanding like that, all of a sudden it's like risk makes a whole lot more sense. You got to make it relatable. And as organizations are waking up to that, they're realizing that there are things like security debt, the accumulated systems that they have in their networks that may not have been patched for several years are now something that they're waking up to, that they have to get a better handle on that. Doing something like multi-factor authentication reduces risk in the organization and allows them to have the time to better tackle those problems. So we have to look at it, every organization has some level of security debt, and as they're going through and trying to reduce that risk in the organization, they have to have a plan and look at how they're going to approach it. And as they do that, if they're doing it the easy stuff first, like MFA, they can get to the harder stuff of networking systems, collaboration, all of these other tools that they can then better improve the security of their organization going forward and reduce that risk.
I think one of the points that helps CISOs in general to understand the business, which I recommend, is to read the financial statements or any risk report that the company has, because just implementing controls randomly will not actually help, one, to address the right appropriate risk, two, to get the approval from the business. Like, there's no link, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to get any budget, you will not be able to implement the right controls across people, process, and technology. Now, we talked about having an understanding of the risk and then implementing a plan, which I really like as well, very, very important part. You're not gonna be able to implement everything at once, but also you will have limits in budgets, in resources, so you need a specific timeline, you need to have that strategic way of addressing the risk that's from the most critical to the one that you can still manage and have that decision depending on your risk appetite as well. So now when we're talking about that, it makes me think about a concept that's called sustainable cybersecurity. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's absolutely a great way to approach things. We want to make sure that we're doing stuff that makes sense. If it's a case of just buying a solution, plugging it in, and hoping for the best, and come back and look at it in 5 years, obviously that's not going to translate. It's not going to improve the risk appetite or posture of the organization. So we want to make sure that when we're doing these things that we do exactly that. We have a coherent plan, have a strategy. Like when we talk about stuff like zero trust, or you can call it trusted access, whatever it happens to be, it's all about risk reduction in the organization. Network zone segmentation, managing the users, looking at the assets that you have in your inventory and making sure that you clearly understand what they are and what the posture of them is. You're going to have a better understanding as to the security of your organization, and you can place all of those assets in the fundamentally three buckets of the workplace, the workload, and the workforce. And that'll help you get a better way of protecting the organization overall.
So the 3 W's.
Yes.
Great, amazing.
Dub.
But I think, when we look at approaching the risk in cybersecurity, resources that are limited, the budget that is limited, and companies always fighting to get more budget, I think the sustainable term is very relevant, especially nowadays, right? You need to ensure that you just don't spend the money wherever you get or you think that buying a solution will randomly or magically help you. You need to make informed decisions. That's one. But second thing, because of the skill gap, you need as well to have a very strategic decision on your people and the workload that those people will have. Otherwise, you will exhaust your people, you have solutions that are implemented that are either inefficient or just not used, and therefore you will not be able to sustain your strategy on a longer term. So, coming back to actually this choosing solutions, one of the questions that comes very often from CISOs, in my case, is I have so many tools to choose from. How will I make that informed decision? How will I choose a tool that specifically will address a particular risk or will help me to reduce that risk? Because obviously you have many controls that you can implement. But what would be your answer to that question?
Well, you have to look at what makes sense for your organization. What are your requirements? what is it you're trying to protect as an organization. So any vendor can say, you want to buy this tool, great, that's fine. But if you don't have it matching up with the requirements of your organization and what the risks are you're actually concerned about, that's where you have to really do your homework. Pardon me. That's where you have to do your homework and make sure that you are addressing your needs. Because vendors have all sorts of tools. You can get all sorts of different colors of hammer, but which hammer makes the most sense for your organization? You have to hire good people. And when that's not an option, as I've seen in a lot of organizations, being able to have trusted partners that you can actually talk to that will help you by giving you information to help facilitate that answer.
Great, Dave. So I think in conclusion, because we are limited in time, unfortunately, otherwise I would be talking with you for hours, it's pricing and understanding the risk first, understanding what kind of solutions would fit for your organization relating to that risk, and then ensuring that you have a sustainable plan in place that makes sense to implement over a long period of time.
Yeah, you want to look at democratizing security. You want to make it as easy as possible for the end users to work on things and not be blocked by tools written by engineers for engineers. You want to make sure that's as seamless as possible, and by doing that, you're going to improve the overall security of your organization and make everybody's life a whole lot easier.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was really fantastic to have you today.
Cheers.
Cheers.